everybody, and welcome back to another amazing episode of the Power of Women in Insurance podcast. My name is Teresa Kitchens. I'm here every single week with you, and we do have a new episode every single Wednesday. And today we are talking to an amazing woman out of California. What am I thinking? Oklahoma, like nowhere near California, but Oklahoma. And she's been working with the young agents over there with the state of Oklahoma. She is a commercial insurance producer. She is a rock star, and she is actually this past year has been nominated to be the next gen under 30 class winner. So we are excited to be able to have her with us today. Krista Kautz, how are you? Thank you for joining us today.
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me. And for the listeners, we're starting, first thing in the morning. So
We are
just sipping on my coffee, ready for my coffee talk.
I love it. Well, I got my morning, I don't know, water. I need to go get my Diet Dr. Pepper because that's my jam. Yep. So Krista, tell us a little bit about you. You are newish to the industry. You've been around for a little while, but you've never been around for like 40 years, right? Obviously. But I'm excited because we are all about propelling women and women of the next generation into the insurance space. And I'm excited that you have found the insurance space. Tell me how you got where you are today.
Absolutely. So it's actually you're either people in the industry get in the industry for one, in one of two ways. One, you randomly, it's just chance. You stumble into it and you're here. And the other way is that your family pulled you into it. They dragged you into it, or they talked you into it somehow.
Kicking and screaming.
So exactly. So for me, it was definitely the chance. I just happened to know somebody that he was kind of in the friend group, in my husband's friend group at the time. He was my boyfriend at the time. And he was managing a set of townhouses, and we moved into that townhouse, and he lived just 2 doors down. And so we would all get together, and I would be talking about my job at the time. I was a front desk clerk at a hotel, and one day I was just kind of tired of it. It wasn't that I didn't love my guests. It's not that I didn't love the people. I just got tired because there was nothing else to learn. And he was like, you know what? The insurance industry would be perfect for you because you learn something new every day. Doesn't matter how long you're in it.
Yep.
You learn something new every single day. Which was kind of crazy to me at the time, because I had always thought that insurance was, in my mind, I always related insurance agents to like your CPAs, your attorneys, like those really smart, informational, like lovers. They love information and they're really good at just sitting there and reading a policy. I thought that was crazy, that there's no way that I could do something like that.
Right.
But it was a data entry and receptionist position. So I'm like, well, let's just give this a shot and see how it goes. And he actually had to pester me quite a bit to get me to go in and turn in my resume.
Wow.
So I was scared.
Yeah. It's a whole
scared.
new industry. It's a whole new everything. And to do a lot in the industry, you have to get licensed. You have to be able to do that, continuing education and all that. So it's a project. I mean, to get into the insurance industry, it's a project. It's not a passing thing in general, and not to be good at it. Right.
Exactly. And at the time, I remember, and again, it was just a receptionist and data entry position. So I didn't have to be licensed. I didn't have to get licensed, but he was like, you can get licensed if but about a month after I had started, one of the account managers came out and said, hey, I'm expecting. And so I will have to go on to maternity leave. And I remember the day he came and sat at my desk, and he goes, I need you to get licensed, and if you can. And so I did. I went, I took the class, the prep class. I took the test, passed first try. And then he said, okay, so here, let's start getting your training in for your account manager work. We started getting that training in, and he was like, well, once she goes on leave, because this was her producer.
Mm-hmm.
Once she goes on leave, like I basically don't want to feel like she's gone. And that
Wow.
was I just had this wave of overwhelm hit me. And so immediately from the beginning, he was constantly challenging me. And so I did that account manager job for about 4 years, 4.5 years.
Okay.
And kind of like the hotel portion, there was just something. I knew I loved insurance, but it just wasn't quite a fit. And
Okay.
I had another partner of the agency who quickly became one, he's still my mentor today, but and he was actually the chairman of Big Eye of Oklahoma
Okay.
this last year. So he's passed here this year. But he kept telling me, he was like, you would be a really great in-house producer. And I'm like, no. And he's like, well, we've got it. I mean, if you're interested in it. And at the time I was like, I just don't know if I could do that. All those what ifs, they were just floating around of like, what if I fail? And that was the number one thing. What if I fail?
Well,
And even
I think it's
then,
scary to be able to get into production. I mean, so what did they expect from you to make that transition? Because you were doing account management. What what pressure was there for you to be able to make that change that you had to be able to get over? Because it's a mind shift to go from account management into production. There's a little bit more pressure, there's a little bit more expectation, there's a little bit more um uh an ability to a need to live up to what it is that your boss really wants on that level of things. I mean, it's on the account manager
yeah.
side as well, but what was your thought process to be able to make that change? What made you want to go over into production and be able to do it? Because it's almost a different personality that people have typically if they really excel in either position.
Well, honestly, one of the things that frustrated me as an account manager is that I wanted to make the calls.
Ah,
I wanted to say where we're putting the business. I wanted to call the client and present it to them. So I was, to an extent, I was already producing. I just really didn't know it at the time. In
okay.
hindsight, I didn't know that I was pretty much already acting like an in-house producer. But the account manager work, like trying to do the account manager work and trying to, whether it be cross sell or, again, wanting to present the quotes, wanting to have that relationship and wanting to develop strategies. I was doing it all.
I love it.
So, and I was just getting really bored with the processing side of it, making sure a document is labeled the right way, and just the little details. I hated filling out Accord apps.
Yep.
I hated sending certificates. It was, I had already learned it. So because that was part of what I liked in the beginning, was that it was something new that I was learning.
Right.
And so that's what really kept, fueled me. But after 4 years, I was getting bored. And so I thought, I had seen a wholesaler and they had a position open for an associate underwriter. And in my
Okay.
mind, underwriter equals production.
Okay.
I don't know why, but at the time that's what I thought. And my mentor, and it's going to name drop here, but Stuart Berrong, he told me, he said, I don't know why you're making this jump, why you're leaving to this wholesaler to be an associate underwriter, because it's basically the same position. Everything you have told me of what you're going to go do, it is a lateral move, and you will be doing the exact same thing, but on the company side. I get over there, and about the 6-month mark, I'm sitting here going, I'm doing the same thing, but on the company side.
Right.
And they had the producer, they opened up a producer position because they had filled that position while I was an account manager, because
Okay.
I backed out. I didn't want to do it.
Right.
They filled that position, and that person decided that that wasn't the position for them, and they went elsewhere.
Okay.
Well, I saw the position open, and I'm over here and I'm like, well, I want to be in production. So I went to one of my managers and was like, what's the likelihood of me moving up and being a production underwriter? And they're like, oh, yeah, that's about a 10-year move. Like
Wow.
it's gonna take you 10 years, and I mean, they're like, we'd be surprised if you could pull it off in 5 years. Like, that's a big move.
Yeah.
And yeah, no, I'm young, I'm impatient. Like, I'm not I'm like, I'm not gonna do this. I'm not gonna spend 10 years in an associate position. I can't. This is driving me nuts. I've been
Yep.
already been doing this for 4 years. I just switched sides. I can't. And
Right.
so I reached back out to the agency and said, hey, I noticed this position is open. And for some reason on that company side, I developed a sense of, I developed confidence on that side.
Good.
And
Yeah.
I don't have really an exact moment of whenever that confidence had hit. But whenever I talked to one of the agency partners, I said, I know I'm a great fit for this position, and I'm going to be great at it.
Nice.
I'm going to do this.
So,
And
so you
so,
are doing commercial sales, and that is scary
yes,
for a lot of people because
yes.
it's big, it's different. Every single risk is a little bit different, right? You rarely ever
Mhm.
have two identical businesses, two identical business owners, two identical processes, groups of people that you work with, so on and so forth. So getting into commercial, how did you really, like you're talking about, get that confidence? Because I think a lot of people struggle because the insurance side of the world, we have a lot of classes we can take, we have a lot of group of things we can do, but it's still up to us to be able to get out there and connect and build relationship and close the deal. So how did you go from that, get that confidence? Because like what you were saying, there was something there, maybe you don't know exactly when it happened, but what mental process do you think you went through to be ready to be a commercial line sales producer? Because just it's just a big bold move, because I think a lot of people are really scared by commercial insurance.
I think for me, it's just admitting that you don't know everything.
Okay.
Admitting to yourself that I don't know, I don't know everything. That I guess because I looked up to my agency partners like so much, like the agency owners, and they were producers. They've been in this industry, every single one of them, 10 years at this point. And and obviously some a lot longer, but they just always seem to be really knowledgeable. But it was whenever I went to that company side, and I would have agents call me all the time and ask me, do you know do you know information on this? How do I do this? And it was the fact that I had all these agents that they were out there, they're a commercial lines producer. They're just trying to figure things out just like you are.
Yep.
And so I've learned since being back on this side, you got to find those agents to talk to. You've got to be able to help each other.
Mm.
And, I know that a lot of people have a hard time talking to their competitors, and I mean, I'm not afraid to pick up the phone and call somebody. He's on the Young Agents Committee, but I'm oblivious whenever it comes to bonds.
Right.
Bonds are hard. They are so hard. And if you work with contractors, you're going to have to deal with bonds at
Yep.
some point. And I pick up the phone and I call him of like, is it really supposed to be this hard to write a bond? like this lady just sent me an 8-page application. Is that normal? How do I fill out this application? And not only is this application, but they want financials, and I'm like, how do you do this? And he goes, oh yeah, no, like I can usually write one of those in a day. And I'm like, how do you write one of those in a day?
Yeah.
He's like, well, usually they come to me with all the information. I'm like, you've got more knowledgeable clients than I do.
Yeah.
So,
right. They don't have to go look for it
I'm
and search for it.
right. But I know that that's his specialty. That's his agency specialty.
Okay.
And so I'm going to call the person that this is their specialty. They understand it. Just like I would prefer somebody, I have a lot of knowledge in oil and gas and some trucking because my dad has been both my entire life. But I would rather someone pick up the phone and ask me the question of, hey, this may seem like a silly or really dumb question, but how does this work? Mm-hmm. Do they need this? How do I make sure I take care of them in this scenario? So just being willing to admit to yourself, I don't know everything, but I might know someone that knows this.
I love that. And being able to step up and ask those questions is super important to being able to grow, because I think it's when we don't ask those questions and we want to pretend like we know everything that we are going to get so many things wrong, and we're going to end up burning some bridges, and we're not going to do the best by our clients, and we're not going to do the best by our team members either, because we're not doing the job the right way. And I love the fact that you are talking about asking questions, asking for help, asking, how can I do more? How can I do something different? And you're constantly working that ability to be able to do what's best for you and for the client. I think that's great.
Exactly. And so, I mean, even whenever it comes to taking like my CIC, I have been terrified of the CIC.
Yep.
Because everyone says it is that written form. And I was just like, I was not good in school whenever it came to like written, like non-multiple choice tests. And I mean, I'm selling myself short, and I'm very hard on myself, but I mean, I graduated in a class of 40, but I was still the salutatorian.
Okay.
So, I mean, obviously I could take tests. I didn't like testing.
Right.
And so that was my main fear. And I get in and start taking like my CIC test. And I'm like, oh my goodness, this is just like writing an email to my client.
Right.
And them asking a coverage question. I just have to remember it, and I can't look in the book. But right. I've even told my clients, I'm like, on that particular, like I'm a little bit fuzzy. So like if I'm trying to sell cyber, okay, let me go refresh on my cyber knowledge real quick, and then I'll come back to you. Like it, even to my clients, I don't pretend to know everything.
I love that.
Not at all.
I love that. So what do you love about commercial insurance? What do you love about being in that space?
Being a jack of all trades. You can learn something new all the time.
Yeah.
All the time. I mean, and even if it's just like a tree trimmer and I mean, I do a lot of flow hands in the oil and gas industry. And these are one-man contractors. They really don't have employees. And a lot of them will start to work their way up in their industry by either getting subcontractors underneath them, or they'll start trying to work towards an engineering degree and try to go into consulting, or try to move up that ladder a little bit. And so taking this journey with them, we kind of talk about the shift and their risks. And so that's, even though I do this every single day, I have 2 to 3 of these guys coming in. And I've created kind of like a referral program with them. Well, not really, like a marketing program. They pass around like a little flyer that I just created one day. It was just, hey, I have this idea to throw my picture, throw my account manager's picture on there. Let's throw our phone numbers on there and send it out.
That's awesome.
I don't know if it was from all the sales classes that I've taken, and set in seminars and motivate and talk, listen to motivational speakers, but I did it. And it's circulating around their industry. And again, I work with these guys every single day, but every single one of them is different. And so it's finding the personality, and some of them aren't a good client. Like, they're not a good fit for me. Some of them want the cheapest that they can get. And they also like don't want to have proper coverage, and they don't want to pay their bills.
Right.
And, and there's been a couple where they're like, I only need this policy for 3 days just to send a certificate, and then I'll cancel it. And I'm like, nope, no. So learning that side of it too, of like how to say no to a client as well.
And that's really hard, especially when people are getting started and they're hungry, right? And they're trying to sell, and they're like, but I just want more quality clients, I mean, saying no is so hard because you want to sell, you want to be able to get them in there. But at the same point, I think, did you have to get on the other side of that, make some bad decisions and go, oh my gosh, I never should have written this person. I knew that was not a good client when I wrote them. Did you have to like experience it firsthand, or were you pretty aware that whenever maybe your team member said, hey, you don't want, challenging business, it's not going to be financially good for you or personally good for your book? Did you have to, because I think most of us have kind of jumped in that pool of writing some business that we knew we shouldn't have written, and then we get our hands slapped for the work or the time, or the clients are just cruddy, and then we're grateful when they leave and we go, I'm never going to do that again. I don't know. I think some of us have to unfortunately be burned before we make those decisions.
So I did get burned, but I got burned as an account manager. And I'm like, so I wish this producer would just cut this person out. Like, just no, I'm tired of this. And, and I've, walked into another account manager's office before, and she was talking about how her producer was doing the same thing to her. And it was a similar producer. I mean, they're all family, so, they all have similar traits. But she was talking about like, I really wish that, this guy keeps letting his policy cancel, and then we take him back, and then he lets his policy cancel, and then we take him back. And she was like, I'm tired of it. I'm tired of rewriting this guy. And she was getting so frustrated, and she was getting overwhelmed. And it, I was definitely empathetic, because I've been there. I've been frustrated as an account manager that my producer just wouldn't cut the tie with this person. Like, I understand that you want the business,
right?
But it comes at a price, and you're wasting your time. You're actually losing money and agency resources by wasting your time on this person. And so treating it like that, as your time is money, and it's your time. You can never get it back once you've wasted your time.
Yeah. Isn't that true though?
Yeah. And so, I mean, money, you could always go make some more money, but but time, you can never unhear these conversations, or you can never, undo the fact that you spent time on this client whenever you should have cut them. And you could have, in that time that you spent on them, you actually could have bound 3 or 4 good clients.
Right.
By babysitting this bad client.
That's true.
And so in our agency, we are working on doing that shift of starting to work on attracting the right type of client for us.
I think it's a really big challenge for everybody, just across the board. Because a lot of different reasons. I mean, but it's hard. And sometimes you don't realize that they're going to be a bad client until you're already into it. But taking them back repetitively is a different conversation, right? Because sometimes they act like they're wonderful on the front end, and then they turn out to be just a challenging whatever, maybe how they deal with conflict if they're having a bad day. Maybe all of a sudden you realize further in that they're a screamer or something, that they call and they just blow up rather than dealing with the problem, or, whatever it might be. But I think being aware of that is also what I call the happy factor in the agency, right? It's also, I want to enjoy my job. I want my team members to enjoy their job. And if we're constantly writing bad business or taking people back that are just challenging clients or all of those things, it's kind of like, we see the caller ID on our phone. We're like, oh, and you answer the phone.
Yeah,
And,
we all have those clients.
we all have those clients where we all go, or like when you answer the phone, you hear their voice, you're like, why did I answer the phone? And you just have this, let down when you know that it's them. And I really want to be able to build a business that we have very few of that, very, very few of that. So I love the fact that you're really focusing on good quality business.
Well, and I think that it's important, especially with your account managers, like they're the ones that have to actually talk to these people every single day.
Yep.
But I mean, I've been through several scenarios with producers. And so I think with me having that account manager background, I think that's what sets me apart from most producers.
Yeah.
And so
I would have to agree that probably
that
gives you a
practice.
different perspective.
Yes. Yeah. I will say my number one pet peeve though, is one of my clients treating my account manager poorly.
Yep.
Either yelling at them or calling back to back to back to back to back. And I mean, just within minutes. And that right there is immediately like, no, that you're not going to treat my account manager like that because they are the one that does all this work for you. I'm here to keep the relationship, but do not treat them poorly.
Absolutely.
And do not be condescending. And so I've had even just somebody like calling in and treating the receptionist poorly. That's whenever I get very blunt and very mean right back because I'm like, you need to call someone else because you're not going to treat her. You're not going to talk to her people like that.
So how do you deal with that? Because I think that's a challenge that a lot of people shirk away from is the honest conversation that you need to maybe have with that client. Do you find that the clients are pretty open to that? They go, oh, you know what? I shouldn't have done that. I'm so sorry. Or do you find that they kind of fight back sometimes? How do you deal with that? Because that confrontation, because you have the relationship with the client. I mean, you both do. I mean, an account manager does as well because they deal with the day-to-day stuff usually. But that agent really has that relationship. You've built it. You know their business, really well. How do you deal with that conflict?
It depends on the client. And my agency owners will be the first to tell you that if tell any of us, nobody does, and none of their staff just deserves to be cussed at.
Correct.
And
correct.
As far as, like them being demeaning and using derogatory terms. So that's the first thing of like, if someone's going to start using that, I'm a little bit rougher with them. I'm a lot more blunt and a lot more confrontational. I pretty much tell them to stop calling us and to call someone else because it's not that we're not a fit. And usually the people that are doing this aren't even clients yet.
Right.
I've had a client that there was just a clear miscommunication. And so with those type of scenarios, it's, hey, what's going on? I mean, I just call them, hey, I'm hearing some feedback from the account manager that we're having a little bit of difficulty doing, issuing these auto IDs. Tell me what's going on. Like explain to me what you're seeing and what you're experiencing.
Mm-hmm.
And so just getting them to kind of talk about it. And I've had some that are like, you know what, I shouldn't have blown up.
Nice.
I really shouldn't have. But I was very frustrated. And then that's when they start telling me my dog just died. My
usually there's some other stuff that goes into it. Yeah.
There's always a reason. And so and it's like, hey, this is kind of out of characteristic for you. Like, what is going on? How are you doing? Let's have a conversation. And so, it doesn't matter if you're the first, it doesn't matter what position you are in the agency, always being that second person to call and say, hey, what's going on? And I mean, that's really, really it.
Yeah.
It's just having that follow-up conversation. So if there's somebody that I'm having trouble with, you know, I'll have my agency owner set in with me.
Okay.
And, you know, I've had an agency owner go on a client visit before of like, hey, honestly, it was my first client visit.
Okay.
And as a producer. And so I'm like, you know, it's up to me to run this meeting and to get everybody back onto the same page. So I would like for you to be present to help guide me in this a little bit. But that's another thing, is that having somebody there to coach you of how to carry on these conversations.
Mm-hmm.
That has been absolutely um, one of the main pillars to the success that I have had.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that is 100% it, is having it being vulnerable enough, because you don't want somebody to tell you after how you could have done better.
Right.
That vulnerability and that, you know, that ability to not get defensive, which I do.
We
I
all
do get
do.
defensive sometimes,
We
but
all do.
having that other person that will say, I don't need you to get defensive on this. I'm just trying to tell you how you could have been better. You did not do, this is not me saying you did a bad job, but this is how you can do better. This is how you can improve and work
When I
towards
get
that.
constructive feedback, okay, whenever I get that constructive feedback, like you're talking about, my husband's always like, I hate the word criticism. So, instead of constructive criticism or whatever, I have to remember, sometimes I breathe and I just sit back and I go, breathe, just accept, just take in. And the whole time I'm talking to myself and I'm like, just take it, just breathe in, just, you can decide what you choose to do with this information. Like, you don't, like Teresa, you do not have to do everything this person says, but you're here to receive. You're here to just receive. And then you can make a decision how you want to be able to process that information, if it's really something you feel like you need to do or not. But it's your job to right now just receive. Because I think I've let the person down if they are somehow telling me that I could be better. And so I get very tense and I need to go defend myself. But this is what I was thinking, but this is why, and I'm always looking to respond to that feedback rather than to receive that feedback. And as an adult, I just have really struggled with that. I mean, as a younger person, I think that I was more open to constructive feedback, but as an adult, I'm like, no, I know what I'm doing. And we feel like we need to be just that super professional who knows everything. So whenever we get that type of feedback, sometimes it gets really scary and we want to go defend ourselves. And I know that for me, I just have to sit back and just go, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you. It's almost like namaste. Thank you. Namaste. Thank you.
I know it's really, really hard though. And if you're somebody that has to process something, because, and for me, and I'm the first to admit to anybody that talks to me more than, a few minutes, that I do have anxiety. It is diagnosed. It's not diagnosed. But in my anxiety will start to tell me like, it starts to try to take a negative turn sometimes. And so it takes me a minute to process. And so how to slow that side down and then to be able to open up to receive. Mm-hmm. So, being willing to admit that you need time to process, if you are somebody that needs to process something, that is absolutely okay.
Yeah.
Absolutely okay. And usually if you're talking to somebody, and I mean, even just think like, if you say that to them of, hey, I appreciate what you're saying. Let me chew on that. Let me process that for a little bit. Most of the time they're going to be like, you know what? Yeah, definitely take all the time you need before you respond.
Yeah. And that's when we really grow, is when we process, right? Because there's a lot of times when we get a little bit of a distance from something that I go, I could have done better. I could have done blank. Maybe, and I don't like the word should, but maybe I could have done that. Maybe that would have been a better choice, right? And then you can file it away in the back of your mind and make sure that you try to utilize that at a later time. But sometimes I need the distance to be really open to the idea of truly receiving what it is that another person says. I almost need to be like out of their space to, like you said, to process it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, and another thing that I learned most recently is that if you still need more time to process, tell the person that you still need more time to process, because it's better than having a frustrating conversation. Like you're still frustrated and then trying to act like you're not frustrated. I am an open book. So if I'm frustrated, I am a very passionate person. So it'll eventually come out. And so, and I mean, the most important thing though is for me, I've been taking communication courses. Anytime I find somebody putting on a seminar that has something to do with communication, that has been really valuable, because I've learned that some people, if they have an issue, they might not express it to you. Whereas I'm somebody that if I have an issue, I'm going to tell you, hey, I have this issue. Or, hey, there's this, you guys implemented this new process. It does not make sense. Like, I'm going to be the first to tell you that, where I learned that others aren't like that. Other people aren't like that. Some people are like, nope, I'm just doing what I'm told to do. And there's a better way that we could do this, but I'm not going to say anything. And it's like, why wouldn't you say something? I don't understand. Just say something. If I'm doing something, especially tell me, hey, you could be doing this better. Or, hey, it really peeves me whenever you do this.
But a lot of people, not a lot, but there are certain people that just don't step up and tell you that. I mean, and then they harbor those thoughts and those feelings, but we need to communicate, because that's how we are better together at the end of the day.
Yeah. And so I think one of those things is being able to like understand that not everyone processes things the same way you do and communicates. And so having that time for a person like me, I'm very straightforward. Let's go. And being able to go, oh, wait, this person isn't like this. You have to pull it out of them. You have to ask them questions, leading questions. And so having to study those leading questions is really, and trying to remember that in the moment it takes a lot of practice, because it just doesn't come naturally.
Yeah. Yeah. Now you were a nominee this year for the Next Generation Under 30 Award with the Big Eye of Oklahoma. So tell me about how you got involved with the Big Eye, and tell me a little bit about what it's done for you, because I think a lot of people get scared about the idea of, oh, I don't need to spend time out of the office with a group of insurance agents, or they don't spend the time in the Big Eye or in those types of organizations. So tell me a little bit about the Big Eye. Tell me about your role in it, and tell me a little bit about what you're doing over there.
There is so much that your state association can do for you. And if you are not a member yet, you got to be a member. There's so much benefit. Like, even though you are, yes, you do have dues that you have to pay, I promise you it will definitely work out in your favor. Most certainly. And another thing is if you're just paying the dues and then not getting involved, not using, I mean, you are throwing money away, but you're not only throwing money away, you're throwing opportunities away, a lot of opportunities. I mean, even the Big Eye on a national level has a lot of marketing opportunities to grow your business. So for me, the Big Eye has really opened up a whole network of people. And it's honestly some of my closest relationships. Some of my best friends have come out of getting involved in the Big Eye. And everyone asked me, like, I still can't understand. How do you go and talk to your competitor? Well, I'm not saying, hey, here's my client's name and number, go call them right now and try to go get them. It's not like you can have a conversation with them and ask them, hey, I've got a XYZ type contractor and I'm not used to doing it. This is my understanding of it, but I know you do this all the time. Tell me,
Yeah.
tell me what you see on a small scale and on a big scale. And they're going to tell you, because we're insurance people. We like to talk. We like to, we do. You just have to ask the question. So yeah, the Big I really has done a lot and contributed a lot to the success I have had, whether it be that they host those CE classes. And the Future Insurance Leaders of Oklahoma was my first inkling of, I actually might be a producer. I might be a producer personality. And I think that might be something I might work towards one day. One day. That was 5 years ago.
And that day came.
It did. And so I was a part of the 2018 Future Insurance Leaders of Oklahoma. And we had sales classes, we had leadership classes, how to work with your team and that communication. And we had underwriting classes, we had a claims seminar.
Nice.
So there's all kinds of different aspects to the industry that were a part of this program. And we even went to the Oklahoma Insurance Department and learned, what do they do? Why are they here? What can they do for us? We got involved in the community and did a community service project. So from there, I moved up to the Young Agents Committee, because that's where we pull. That's who we pull from, is the Future Insurance Leaders of Oklahoma. And immediately, whenever we're looking at somebody to join the committee, we're going to have a meeting today and tomorrow, actually, about this. And one of the first things we do is we pull up who has completed Future Insurance Leaders of Oklahoma.
Okay.
Before we start pulling them onto the committee, because that's a prerequisite for us.
Yeah.
And because that's where you get your initial development, your networking. And so it's who showed up to these. Because you can sign up for Future Insurance Leaders of Oklahoma all you want, but who was dedicated, who was going to show up at every single module and get the most they could out of every single module, who was engaged. And so we, as committee members, we attend these modules, and we're kind of looking, we're getting to know the people that are coming into the industry.
Right.
And so, and obviously this is all people that they're either under 5 years of experience or under 40.
Right.
And so, we have people that are coming in, and they're in their first year of owning their agency. They're in their first year of being on, someone on the company side. They got hired right out of college. So here they are in the Future Insurance Leaders of Oklahoma. So there's a lot of growth that has happened, even just being in this, involved in the young agent side.
Yeah.
They really have. And we all push each other and help each other, and to be each other's best that they can be. And I've had some people I would talk to, and they'd be like, Krista, you can do this. Like, you could do that. That's easy.
Yeah.
You've got it. And because that moment, that very tiny bit of self-doubt that I had, they build me up.
That's awesome.
And they're like, this is the relationship we all have in Oklahoma is just amazing. And I love it.
Well, that's really going to fuel your career forward too, because it gives you so many great connections, so many great people to pull from, so many opportunities to really learn. And then the education piece as well is just huge for being able to propel you into the future of your career.
Exactly. And the next gen under 30 is a industry-wide, statewide award. So, you have people that are in the financial category. You have people that are in oil and gas. You have transportation. You have all these categories, and they were pulling all of these people that were under 30 years old into this award, and you all get together, and it's another networking opportunity, another net for this award. And so it's not, yeah, it was an amazing experience getting to be a part of that. And I got that opportunity because somebody saw something in this industry in me, in this
I love
insurance
it.
industry. Someone was like, man, that girl's awesome. She deserves to be put up for this. So that was really cool. And the moment when those double doors open and you walk in and you're all dressed up and everyone's clapping and, cheering for you, it's a really cool moment.
That
A
sounds like a
really
really,
cool
really
moment.
cool moment. Like one of those that you remember forever.
Yeah.
So what is
Yes.
your
Yeah.
biggest piece of advice that you give new people, producers in the industry, maybe specifically commercial? What is your biggest piece of advice that if you were to be able to sit down with a brand new producer in the industry and they say maybe they're a year in or less, what is your biggest piece of advice that you would give to someone in the industry?
That is a really heavy question.
It's a lot. And I have to say, I didn't prep
A
you for this at
lot.
all. I'm just throwing it out
No,
there.
you did.
So
You're
I
just
apologize.
throwing me on in there. No, you're good. So for me, I mean, if I'm thinking about somebody coming in, if literally just get out there and network, go.
Mm,
That's how you're going to get your clients. That's how you're going to build up like a reputation for people to reach out to you. That's how you're going to learn. Get out there,
right.
get out of the office, go. Don't be afraid. And I mean, if you are afraid, I mean, find somebody that you're networking with and kind of stick to them. And
Mhm.
a lot of times they'll start introducing you to other people. Don't be afraid to say I'm new here.
And one of the things too with networking is a lot of people are like, oh, I don't know anybody. I'm so scared. But I think when you get out there and you network, you run into a lot of the same people here and there. And so therefore you do know people
Absolutely.
whenever you end up at places. So you might end up at a networking situation that you've never been to, but usually there's one or two people that you know whenever you show up. And once you really get into it, I mean, it's going to take a little while, but once you get into the community, you end up it doesn't stay as scary. I guess that's what I'm trying to say, because of the concept that you do end up knowing people in your community and people end up showing up and you end up recognizing them.
Well, so the initial is hard into a new
Yeah.
network of people. And I think in one of my trainings that I had specifically in Future Insurance Leaders of Oklahoma, and I'll always remember it. And it's same. We had a very similar seminar for my first Young Agents conference that I attended. But this gentleman mentioned that you have your growth zone and you have your comfort zone. And until you step out of your comfort zone, you are never going to get into that full growth zone. You are going to miss out on so many opportunities because you don't step out of your comfort zone. So I had to get out recently, and I didn't have to, I wanted to, but the idea was like, I wanted to join the local chamber. I want to get involved in my community. I really want to get to know people that are in my backyard.
Right.
It was kind of hard going into the young
Yep.
professionals, and all these young professionals, they're all from different industries, and I'm looking around and I'm going, I don't know anybody. So just having that courage to walk up to the first person, hi, I'm new here, this is my name, this is where I'm from, this is what I do. It's hard, but it's worth it.
It is. It is. Well,
Get out
Krista,
of that
people,
comfort zone.
well, yeah. And I think that's the key to success, right? Is to be able to get out of your comfort zone. Because, like you said, and somebody
Absolutely.
once told me, and I mentioned it once or twice on this podcast, that confidence is a muscle, that the more that we exercise it, the stronger it'll be. So, getting out of our comfort zone, those types of things, it's a muscle that we have to make sure that we exercise. I thought that was really good too. But I
Absolutely.
like what you said as well, that it gets easier, right?
It does get easier. It does get easier.
I love
But
it.
it's not easy being the new person.
No,
It's
it's
not.
not. But you know what? If people want to reach out to you, talk to you a little bit more about your journey in the insurance space, ask you questions, how can they reach on out to you and connect with you?
I mean, honestly, I'm very active on LinkedIn. LinkedIn's like my Facebook page. Like I don't really check Facebook as much as I check my LinkedIn. So look me up, Krista Kautz, KristaKautz.
Awesome.
And so just
Awesome.
pull it up and I'm more than happy to talk to anybody. That's actually how Teresa reached out to
It
me.
is.
So
It is because I love
LinkedIn,
getting on LinkedIn because you can see what people are doing professionally, and that's how we actually connected. So I love it.
yeah, yeah, that's my favorite place.
I love it. Well, everybody, this has been another amazing episode of the Power of Women in Insurance podcast. Please join us anywhere that you listen to podcasts on Apple iTunes. You can go to Google Podcasts, you can go Spotify, wherever. We're going to be there. And next week, we will have another amazing woman in the insurance space. So make sure you check us out every single week. We have a new episode every single Wednesday. This has been the Power of Women in Insurance podcast, and we'll check you out next week. Thanks, everybody.